Greetings, gamers, and welcome to Episode 6 of the Player Profile series. Our featured guest today made a name for himself as one of the best rogue players on the planet when he topped the Killer Outlaw charts back in December Playtest 3. Hopsie's rapier ravaged the HR dungeon, leaving a trail of bodies in his wake. He decided to chill out and just simply enjoy Playtest 4, and he even dabbled in a little wizardry to spice things up a bit. Topics in our conversation ranged from game balance to the rogue and wizard classes, of course, along with the current and future state of the game, dynamics of the playtest grind, other players, and more. Overall, Hopsie's a super chill and humble dude, and I'm glad I had a chance to sit down with him. I really hope you guys enjoy the conversation. And we're live. Welcome, everyone, to Episode 6 of the Player Profile series. Tonight we are joined by the #1 Killer Outlaw from Playtest 3, the one and only Hopsy. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thanks for having me, man. Hello, everyone.
So how are you handling the lack of Dark and Darker? How's the withdrawal?
I mean, I think the second or third time, they've taken it from us. It's not too bad. The other time it was terrible. You need to play it, but right now just playing other games, keep my mind off it, and just wait.
It's brutal, man. When they announced April 14th, it's like a pit in my stomach, just like going down a hill on a roller coaster. It's like, oh no, it's so far off. But part of me appreciates that a little bit because I would rather them take the extra 2 or 3 weeks and get all the development time they need to really do something awesome rather than rush it. I mean, I feel like that February playtest was a little bit rushed. You feel the same
I
way?
agree. Yeah, definitely. Like, obviously, they added a few things here and there, but I think they had a few celebrations, like maybe 2 holidays.
They did, yeah.
But I think it's definitely better that it's longer. Gives them much more time to put in content, maybe the bard, maybe the first floor, something like that,
Right.
and some other things.
Yeah, they said that B1, Terrence said that B1 was mandatory for early access, but I don't know if he had mentioned, I'm going to have to go back and watch that Jonah Vale interview again because it was one of the two. He said B1 is definitely coming either A, next playtest, or B, at early access. But he was very clear they would not release to early access without B1. Bard, I think, was a little bit more nebulous. I think the only thing that's definitive at this point is that Bard is 100% going to be the next class.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. I heard that it was going to be next playtest for the bard, but I don't want to say 100%
Okay.
on that.
So, do you have? Did you get your Elite Discord access based on your placement in Playtest 3?
Yeah, that was like the first playtest that I actually went for the leaderboard. So like previously, I probably caught maybe the last 3 days of playtest 2.
Uh huh.
So like it was caught the end of that. Was like, oh my god, this game's so good. So in playtest 3, we went a bit hard and tried to see what we could do.
Yep. Went
And then
full
I,
degenerate mode. Yep.
and then I got a message, invited to the Discord and stuff like that.
That's awesome. So, is that still pretty lively, or does it typically die down quite a bit after or in between playtests? I guess.
I mean, it's definitely more active during the tests. People putting in, what they've gotten, or look, I've got this unique and stuff like that. Or you guys want to,
Right.
LFG looking for group and stuff. But I barely check it outside of the playtest, so I wouldn't know much.
Okay. So playtest 2 was the first one that you participated in. What was your source of exposure to the game?
Um, It was Helis. He's a friend of mine. He's a English French streamer.
Okay.
Um, some people might know him, but yeah, I watched him play, and I was like, oh well, there's not really that many good games out right now to play, and this looked like super entertaining. So I was like, okay, we'll give that a go. I'm always up for giving new games a go. So I'm glad I did. It was, it's a blast.
Absolutely. So you played in Playtest 2, and you weren't able to play in the whole thing. Playtest 3, you grinded, got the number 1 overall Killer Outlaw, right? Not just Rogue, but the number 1 overall Killer Outlaw?
Yeah, yeah. Overall,
Yeah, that's crazy. Do you remember how many kills you had? I should have looked it up, I forgot.
I think it was like 905,
Woo-hoo.
I believe. I
Yeah.
mean, compared to other play tests, like Narek and stuff like that, they blow it out the water. But I mean, it's okay.
Oh, yeah. Did you play the majority of that in Playtest 3? Did you play that solo, or were you running with a squad?
Um, I actually didn't play it any solo during playtest three. I played it with a cleric and a hunter, uh, two friends, and they stuck with me. Like, to be honest, without them, I wouldn't have gotten up there. I might be on the rogue leaderboard here and there, but
There
it's definitely a team effort.
Yeah, you're not alone in that, though. A lot of the people that were topping the leaderboard were playing in a really good squad, and 2 out of the 3 people in that squad, their job was to support that other 1 person to help them get up the leaderboard. So
Yeah.
you're not alone in that by any means. So when did you get into streaming on Twitch? I know you have a Twitch stream that I started to dig back a little bit. I looked at a few of the games that you've played, but I don't think I made it back all the way to where you first got started. How did you get started on Twitch?
Um, for Twitch, I probably only started uh, like actual streaming properly was like maybe a week before Playtest 4. It wasn't
Oh,
that far away, but
wow.
like on YouTube, I've uploaded videos that are like of like over a year ago and stuff. But that's like more like a hobby, and like having to look back on like the videos and remember how fun it was and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep. Gotcha. So is the content creation thing a passion of yours at all? Like at this point, do you have aspirations to try to blow up a channel and either a Twitch channel, a YouTube channel? Could you see yourself making a lifestyle out of being a gamer at this point, or is this still more of an after hours thing for you?
Um, right now, definitely just more of chilling and having it as a hobby.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, if something did happen, I'd probably, jump into it and go for it. But I don't have like big expectations or anything like that.
right on. Yeah, I think that's the mindset that a lot of folks have. I mean, even Jay, when I first talked to him, he kind of had the exact same sentiment that he didn't have any kind of wild expectations, but in the last 2 months, his channels have just kind of taken off, and he's still being really level-headed about it. At the end of the day, like it is really hard to be a full-time gamer, and it is a true grind. But the other side of that coin is exactly what you just said. Like, given the opportunity, would most people take that chance? Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
it would be hard to turn that down.
Yeah, I feel like Jay is very humble in that aspect. Like as like a viewer, like I enjoy watching his content. I'm like, okay, this guy, he's he's got what he needs to blow up. He can
Mhm.
blow up, and I feel like he will. He just needs to keep at it, and he's been doing great. But like from his POV, he's very humble about it. Like I'm not expecting much, but I think he's doing great.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's put in the work too. It's nice to see someone that still has that mindset after 3 years of grinding. He used to call himself the one viewer Andy, where he was more or less just streaming for his friends, and then this game is what's kind of put him in a position now that, he's monetized on YouTube. He's probably not too far away from making Twitch partner. And yeah, from there I mean, that's just the beginning, right? That's the second beginning of everyone's story, is getting to that level. But Um, yeah, and wish nothing but the best for him, obviously. And I still try to keep in touch with him, and I'm a you know constant shill of my own content and on his Twitch channel,
Yeah,
and uh, and he's been great about letting me share stuff on there. So yeah, nothing but love for Jay for sure. Although his experience, I think, was a lot like your experience in the last playtest, where the grind started, and then at some point, maybe you didn't go out with the mindset that you were going to take over, but at some point early on, I know Jay pivoted once he realized the wizard nerfs. He pivoted from I'm going to be number one to, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy the game.
yeah,
So
definitely.
is that the way it kind of played out for you?
For me, I went into the game thinking, okay, I'm not gonna go for leaderboard, um, because towards the end of the leaderboard, it started becoming tiring and more like a job. Like, okay,
Right.
I've got to get up at this time. I've got to stay on until making sure no one's gonna pass me and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, and it was a lot, and to have three people sit through that, you got an entire team and to back you.
Right.
So we were like, okay, let's chill, let's have fun in this one, try other classes, you know, meme around a bit.
Yep.
So for me, I went to it thinking, am I going to do the leaderboard? And I didn't really. I stuck to it. But when I did get into the game and I went for Rogue again, it didn't feel the same because of all the the buffs on Fighter and Bob. Um, I felt like the Rogue fell off a bit, and it was
Hmm.
very very gear dependent.
I agree. So, what did you end up playing in playtest 3? Just for the audience, in case I didn't explicitly state this, or in case the avatars and images on screen are not apparent enough, where Hopsy made his name in playtest 3 as the number one overall killer. The class that he played was a rogue. So, I guess we've been talking, or I've been talking from that perspective the whole time. But what you just mentioned is that you did not play rogue this whole last playtest. What did you end up playing?
Um, I mean, I'm deep down, I'm a rogue main. I'm gonna try go rogue next play test and
Hmm.
try and stick with it, even though if it was still a bit meh, like a bit wonky. But last play test, I was a wizard boy.
Nice. Okay.
I enjoyed it actually. Like, I thought like watching Jay play, like probably that's like who I watch the most on Dark and Darker stream wise. He makes it look very easy, actually. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Mage is pretty broken. I give it a go. It's definitely got a skill cap. Not a cap, like a ceiling. Like you got to actually to do the things he's doing. Play
Right.
10 spells, 1v3 in. It's hard. It's actually
Right.
really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it
when
was
I
actually
saw him
fun
run
to
that
play.
that 10 spell stack, it was like, "Oh yeah, that takes some skill for sure." And even just running a wizard with the normal 5 spells is no joke
Yeah.
either, especially early on. Like, people underestimate. I think a lot of people think that it sounds great to play wizard, and they see Jay play, they see other guys like Ken, Kanabi play, Apollo. They see these guys that are wrecking lobbies, and they don't realize, number one, how much good gear they have on, and number two, how not easy it is to go from level 1 up to level 15, as especially as a solo. Like, being a wizard from 1 to 5, it is rough. If you're running around with no money and just a staff, it's brutal. The staff is so painful to use. We
Yeah.
got Jay. Yeah, he heard his ears were itching. We got Jay in the chat. Hansel's in there. Hansel says he's been banned from the Elite Discord. Hansel, what'd you do, man? Hopsy, do you have any insight into this?
Nah. I'll keep my mouth shut.
Oh, jeez. But yeah, so you played Wizard. What was your favorite kit to run in terms of spell loadout?
Um, Probably towards the end was 10 spells. It's a lot harder.
You were doing the 10
Um,
spell, okay.
Towards the end, I was, yeah. I was a 5 spell Andy at the beginning. Um, 10 spells. I feel like Wizards really fun because of how much like its tool kit is like. You got so many spells to play in different situations compared to like let's say I was playing Rogue. it sort of has less to play around. I've used hide or
Right.
something like that,
Hmm.
and backstab people. But Wizard is definitely like more open around that area.
Yep. Did you run the crystal ball and the dagger?
I did do that a few times with good gear. I
Hmm.
did just end up getting one shot by something, maybe a fight or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it would be stronger, so I definitely kept using the spell book more.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the book, and just getting it's crazy going from a gray spell book to a white spell book makes a massive difference. If you're running the poor man's kit, like that is an upgrade. As any new aspiring wizard, go for the white spell book. Check your vendor, check the alchemist, see if he's got a white spell book. It's worth buying if you don't have anything magical. That's a huge upgrade.
Yeah, definitely take the spell book over a staff.
100%. All right. So, talked a little bit about the playtest history and now a little bit more about playtest 4. What do you see as what are some of your biggest takeaways overall? Like balance changes and especially changes to wizard and rogue, which you both played. What do you feel like were, some of the most significant aspects of this playtest?
Overall, I don't think the game's balanced whatsoever. I don't like the need to do that eventually. They still got to add um, other things into the game, so they might as well like keep that to the end. But from what we're dealing with, I think from playtest 3 to 4, the wizards nerf. Um, like before, I could just go in with like okay gear, like trader gear, and still dominate. I think the nerf was good. You still have to be really good to play it in
Hmm.
1v3 free situations. It's definitely much harder.
Hmm.
But the fact that you need gear now, um, like other classes need gear, especially a rogue. Um, that's like from experience. Like a
Hmm.
rogue's terrible early on. You're sitting with a grey dagger. You just want to for me, find a rapier. That's job number one.
Right, right.
So balancing wise, I think the balancing from playtest 3 and 4, it was okay. Bob was definitely really strong. Fido was really strong, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've definitely slept on Fighter way too much since the playtest. Several different content creators have come out with some really good breakdowns of all the math that goes into damage reduction through armor. And I had no idea that you could even approach 75%, let alone 95%. I've seen some builds where it's like 95% damage reduction. Physical, right? Physical.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
fighters are still vulnerable in most builds to magic, but man, yeah, fighter is definitely strong. I feel like Rogue definitely took the biggest one of the biggest steps backwards, so I don't blame you at all for switching over to Wizard. And Wizard was still fun. I agree that the nerfs they got were probably deserved. I did like that they buffed meditate, like the fact that you can meditate so much more quickly now. It's a huge bonus. But yeah, I feel like Ranger kind of stayed the same ish.
Yeah, like at the start, my friend who was ranger main, he loves the class.
Hmm.
He patched it. He patched it instantly because um there was like a bug. I think it was a bug because they changed it at the start of the playtest. The arrows would dip like instantly, so you would have to aim in like the roof basically to like shoot across a room.
Oh, the arrow
It was
drop
just
was
unplayable.
was
Yeah, it was
bugged.
unplayable. He
Yeah,
switched. He tried fight out and some other classes.
nice. Did he ended up sticking with fighter?
He tried. We did do the Bob buff. What was it called? He was the Bob. We got a cleric friend back on, even though he's doing exams. And was went around Taran with that, but he eventually went back to Ranger after it got patched and fixed back up.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I started my Ranger until like day 4 or 5 of the playtest, so I think they had fixed whatever arrow drop issue that you're talking about there. Yeah, you mentioned the rapier a little while back. Did you end up finding any god tier rapiers? Did you find Viola?
I didn't actually get any named unique weapons
Hmm.
at all, and I don't think there even was one for a wizard, at least in playtest 4.
Oh yeah, yeah,
But
that's right. I went immediately back to Rogue. I keep
but
looking at this image. Both the images on my
yeah,
screen are
yeah,
Rogues, and I keep
right.
thinking Rogue. All good.
But
No
next
name.
playtest, definitely want it. You know.
Oh yeah, for sure. They didn't have any daggers that were named, right? I think
I don't think so. No.
I think the rapier might have been the
It's weird.
only
Like
rogue weapon that was available.
we're getting some feedback from the devs just by them adding, he's free bows, he's tons of swords. But come on, where's the rogue stuff? Where's the wizard stuff?
Yep.
You know,
Same with cleric. You got one. There was one mace. What was it called? The prayer. No, was it a mace or a morning star?
I'm not sure actually.
Shoot, so bad had it
I have it somewhere. I can
in
check.
one episode. Yeah, I should have looked it up. But yeah, there was one cleric unique, one basically available for rogues. But I feel like yeah, the fighters definitely got the best of all the worlds, and even without having weapon mastery, I think they still got the best deal. Getting back to your wizard play, you were running the 10 spell kit by the end. What did you find the most challenging about doing that, other than the obvious mechanical aspects of it, right? Like just trying to remember where all 10 of your spells are slotted. It's not that simple, although with enough repetition you'll get it down. What was the most difficult thing? What was maybe the most good and bad thing about doing that?
Playing like just knowing when to use what spell and um, when to use it. Like certain spells are better in certain situations. I think
Mhm.
that's definitely where I lack.
Mhm.
At least when it comes to trying to clutch or 1v2 and stuff like that. We're not getting to the 1v3s. I need to get a bit better before that. But it definitely like just knowing when to use what spells. Seeing Gia use slow and stuff. That's a big one for barbs and fighters and stuff like that, or anyone
Yeah.
trying to chase you and catch you.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jay was on record, just like, well, I wasn't on record, but I had the exact same thought that he did when there was right before the playtest, there was a video or interview where someone was talking about the slow spell, and like Jay was laughing about it, I was laughing about it. Like, who the heck uses slow? And then by the end of the playtest, I saw Jay running that 10 spell skit, and he's throwing slow out like every chance he gets. And I had to laugh. It's kind of ironic that I feel like playtest 4 actually may have solidified slow as a not trash spell for the first time since the game's been around. Did you run any other classes, by the way?
I've tried a little bit of cleric. It's not my cup of tea, but I'd play it if I was, to help friends or something like that.
Hmm.
But definitely a rogue boy in the heart. Playtest 3. Playing rogue. I would play like weak point and hide like towards end game.
Hmm.
Um, and early game I'd play. Um, I use poison instead of weak point because then
Okay.
because of the damage.
Yep.
Um, Usually stack ambush with weak point, get the 100% damage, and try and just one tap someone in the head or something like that. So I definitely want to try that in playtest 5.
Yep. No doubt. Well, circling back to a previous conversation about what's coming, if Bard happens to come out, shout out to Tube Legit in the chat. I had the same thought that he did, which is, are you excited for Bard? Is that a class that you're gonna try to jump into, or do you not really care about it?
Um, Not that I'm not hyped at all for it, to be honest. It depends. Depends how high the skill ceiling is for it. If it's hard to play, but also you know performs good, then maybe I'll give it a go.
Okay. Yeah, Bard is one of those classes, especially if you get into classic Dungeons and Dragons, that is very mutually exclusive in terms of opinions. You don't see a lot of people that will ride the fence They either absolutely love the bard or hate the bard. And depending on how Iron Mace decides to implement it, I think it could be one of the most fun, one of the best classes to play. If they take any inspiration from D&D within the last 2 iterations or versions, then Bard could be extremely powerful. Bard in the early days of D&D was not really that highly regarded, but we'll see what they decide to do. I think there are so many different things that could make Bard really, really fun and interesting to play. But I'm kind of with you. Like, I really love playing Cleric. I'm really interested to see once Cleric gets more spells, if there could be a 10 spell viable Cleric at some point. That could make that class much more
That'd be
interesting.
interesting.
What's that?
That'd be interesting.
For
Um,
sure. For
but
sure.
like for the bard, like the only experience I have playing a bard would be like Lost Ark. So I'm not even sure. Like I've never played D&D, like
Mm.
Dungeons and Dragons before. So I don't know what like the bard entails. Like what is it? What does it do? Is it like a damage dealer? Is it a buff type of class or something like that?
Can be a little bit of everything. In D&D, you get the option to study, and that's obviously not going to be a mechanic here in um, Dark and Darker. But if they treat it the same way, I would assume they're going to treat it the same way as spell slots for clerics and wizards, right? Um, you get to choose multiple buffs, but the trick in D&D is that you have to be actively concentrating on one of those at a time, and as you gain experience, you're able to weave, and you're singing these, right? You're singing or playing. So that's the bard archetype, is that you're either singing or you're playing your songs from some kind of college of inspiration, and those buffs buff you, and it's usually an AoE effect to the party around you. As you gain in levels, you can weave more than one college into a single song, so you could have multiple buffs active at the same time. I don't know how much of that they're going to be able to pull off in a game like Dark and Darker, but there are instances in D&D at least where bards become some of the most sought after party members by far, because they can buff your damage, they can do healing, they can make rogues visible. There's the College of
Oh no.
Whispers. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it's the College of Whispers, where you can basically reveal any hidden enemy around you, something to that effect. I mean, there's a lot of really cool things they could do with Bard, but yeah, I think that's going to be a fun class. You've done a lot of Rogue and Wizard. Is there any other class that's on your radar, just based on what you've heard is coming out in the future? Or are you pretty content just running back and forth between those two?
Well, actually, is I want to give Ranger a go because my friend says that I've got Zuma aim, but when I've tried Ranger before, it felt very clunky
Mm-hmm.
and stuff compared to other games where I shoot bows in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I want to give Ranger a go, like properly, level 20 with skills, and see how it plays.
Definitely feels better when you're geared and level, yeah, 15 or over at this point at least, and you have all those perks. It feels different. I don't think Ranger really took any major hits. I just feel like it was overshadowed by Barb primarily in this last
Yeah,
playtest.
I mean, if anything, it's stronger only if you get the bows, the uniques.
Mm-hmm.
But but for now, it's fine. Like the damage fall off, I don't think was that crazy. They said, but just in the game.
Right. Yeah, I know Spud Hunter went from playing a rogue in the first few playtests to Ranger for the entire last playtest, and he fared pretty well. I wasn't able to tune in because I was playing like everybody else most of the week, but I got the sense he was happy with his choice. So I think that's a probably one of the easier transitions for a rogue player. And since you've already done wizard, you're not going to run into anything that's more complicated than that has a higher skill ceiling. But maybe ranger is kind of like a nice happy medium where you can play a little bit more situationally than you can as a rogue, but less than a wizard, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I'm curious to see if they mess with Ranger at all in Playtest 5. I don't think they need to. I feel like Ranger is pretty balanced overall.
Yeah, definitely with like the quiver and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
limiting the fire rate and stuff. Like you can't just shoot 20 times over and over.
Right.
Like you gotta reload, stuff like that.
Yep. So Playtest 5 is coming up April 14th. Until then, you're streaming a little Conan here and there. Do you keep tabs on what's going on in the community pretty regularly? Do you have any favorite content creators out there or favorite hangouts in Discord or elsewhere?
Mainly just jump in G stream here and there. See what he's up to. For other content creators, not really. More like friends, like who stream, healers and stuff, and
Mhm.
echoes. Um, Keeping like tabs on the game. Uh, I check the veteran adventure channel here and there,
Mhm.
see if anything's been talked about. But other than that, I'm trying to keep my mind off it, not think about it, and then it'll just pop out of nowhere and play it again.
Right on. Yeah, that's a good approach. I think either you just dwell on it day after day, which is in the camp. That's the camp that I'm in. Where like every day I'm jonesing for new content from some other creator or player out there, so I can just get my fix in, or maybe something new from the Dark and Darker Discord, like waiting for the next stats to come out. Right, like I want the analytics from Playtest 4. Like that's hopefully something that's coming in the near future. But yeah, I mean, being I guess a content creator at this point, it's like I'm constantly in it, and that reminder is brutal. So I kind of admire and am a little bit jealous of your approach to this, to be honest. Like if I could just shut my brain off and play something else for 40 days and not have to think about it, that would probably be a little bit easier. What are your thoughts on B1? Tube Legit keeps giving me good prompts here in the chat. Do you have any feelings one way or the other about how B1 is going to play out?
I would like it to be, more like a forest and not a dungeon.
Hmm.
So like some people say like, you start up like you start on top and then you go deep into the dungeon.
Right?
So you get like that sort of like um atmosphere that okay, you're actually in something rather than like bang, you're just always in a dungeon, you're never anywhere else. So, I hope there's more people, um, bigger lobbies for players,
Hmm.
that it's, more open maybe.
Yeah, we've talked about this in previous episodes about how they're going to have the challenge to balance the openness of the forest, if it is indeed the forest, how they're going to balance that out and not make it completely overpowered and advantageous to the ranged classes, and at the same time make it big enough but congested enough so that they can put in the amount of players they want to put in. The rumor was early on, I think Terrence might have even been on record saying that they were targeting like between 30 and 35 players on B1.
Yeah, I think that's a good amount, and I feel like they from the solo map that they implemented, I
Mhm.
think they were testing the waters for B1, seeing what people like, and I feel like maybe adding some elevation and stuff like that might be pretty good. But once
Yeah.
again, like classes like ranger, if they're just above you and you don't have any range, then
Right.
what are you gonna do?
Right. Yep. Yeah, I think getting all classes some kind of throwable may be a necessary adaptation if they do that kind of terrain, you know?
I, I feel like there's a problem with that though. Like right now, the bob's thrown, the hitboxes are huge, and they do like so much damage, right?
Yep,
I feel like the classes can have like throw capabilities, but they definitely need to tune down the damage
for sure.
on them
Yep.
because it's crazy right now. Like one a Bob can just run around with your his inventory full of thrown weapons and
Absolutely.
just chase you down. It's over.
Yep. 100% agree. That was a big part of the meta the last playtest, and maybe one of the ways they can fix that is just to minimize the scaling from any stat increases or magical gear
Yeah, I
increases,
agree.
because that was one of the main things that really buffed the snot out of those axes, man. Like all of your buffs applied to an axe. So
Yeah. In this game, they like to this buff stacks with this buff, that stacks with this buff.
right.
Everything stacks in this game, you know.
Yep. Yeah, it gets out of control pretty quick. But if they could find a way to manage that, to keep that from getting out of control, you do let the barbs keep the axe. I think it's just a matter of scaling. You do let
Yeah,
them
yeah.
keep it. Um, you've got wizards and rogues that can throw the knives. Clerics and fighters. Can a fighter throw a knife? Don't play fighters that much. I don't.
Uh, I
I don't
don't
know the
think
answer to
so.
that. Does anybody in the chat know? Can a fighter throw a knife? A throwing knife? Cleric cannot.
I mean, they have a bow though, right? Fighters.
Yeah,
I
they
think.
still get a bow, right? So they have that as an option. But cleric is stuck throwing basically the 24 gold Molotovs or the lanterns, right? Like those are their only options. So you got to
Yeah.
give the clerics something that they can chuck at other people.
The only thing, maybe judgment, but its range is really really
Oh,
small.
it's very
So
limited. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
like the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, and if you're trying to keep it consistent, like you probably want at least one consumable. Fighter might be the exception there, but I think they can. If they choose weapon mastery, I think they can use a throwing knife. But yeah, so outdoors would be awesome. I think it would just add so much to the game, especially for new players. I keep trying to put myself back in the car seat of the proverbial new player, and having that change in terrain and scenery, I think would just go a long way to add that depth to the game. It would just make it seem like a much larger world rather than just, hey, this game is all about just being in a dungeon. And the devs have aspirations to build out multiple parts of a larger map, and hopefully they'll tie a story into it at some point. I mean, there's so much they can do. But I'm with you, man. I hope they do the outdoor terrain where you can see the sky.
Yeah, I'm just I'm not sure what it will look like, but I'm just trying to keep it in their hands. Not um put like big expectations on them. They've done great so far, so let them keep on doing great things and see where it goes.
Absolutely. Well, I'm running out of topics here, man, and my voice is giving out on me. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover off? Any things that you're passionate about or are top of mind for you, especially if it comes to dark and darker stuff?
Buff Rogue,
I don't know who you should lobby. Who at Iron Mace is the rogue advocate or the rogue champion? I'm trying to think of all the different mods. Who's the
like
guy?
to be honest, the the Rogue was in a good position before the fighter and bar buff.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um, I thought it was pretty balanced. I mean, it could with good gear, like 1, 2, 3 shot like any other class.
yeah.
Um, but now it's we'll see. Like the press who was number one rogue last playtest.
Yep. I
I was
got
talking
killed
to
by
him with
him.
it. Yeah, I was talking to him about it, and he was like wondering why I wasn't playing rogue. And his take was, Bob and Fighter was our counter class, and just did not fight them. But I just can't do that. When I see someone, they've got to die. Like can't be any of that.
Seeing red. Yep.
But like maybe I'm just playing Rogue wrong. Like maybe the playstyle I was playing was wrong. Maybe after speaking with Jay, maybe give him poison build a go, where use the Rogue's mobility, build up the poison uh, stacks. Like apparently it could be insane damage. So maybe
Mhm.
just run in, stab, run out. Not my sort of gameplay, but it could work. Apparently it's really strong. So maybe giving that a go.
So Jay says he says no to the rogue buff. And then he said with weapon mastery, yes. With throwing knives. Okay. Yeah, the feed that I have in OBS is so daggone delayed. I should pull up a different utility for this, but I think that's what he was referring to, that fighters can use throwing knives with weapon mastery. So
I think next playtest we can expect another wizard nerf. You know,
oh man, I don't know.
it doesn't need one. I'm just trying to mess with you.
Well, hey man, it has been a pleasure for you guys in the chat and in the stream. Thank you for joining. Be sure, if you're not already following Hopsy on Twitch, to go check him out. I've got the link in the description. It's gonna be a while before we're at the next playtest, boys, but we will make it there together. uh, Hopefully, a lot more good content coming out from this awesome community, and at some point we'll try to get everybody together. I keep threatening to do this, but I'm trying to get all the um, alumni of the player profile series together at some point for a group therapy session, rather. And we'll try to do that, and I'll definitely throw you into that mix, Hopsy. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you, man. It was fun, actually.
Right on. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you next time.